Sir,
The program, sir. Okay.
switch off. Switch off. Silent. Background season. Oh, okay.
చేయండి ఇదేనా
మీరు మాట్లాడండి పని
సరే సార్ గుడ్ మార్నింగ్ everybody. Welcome to Honorable Vice Chancellor of Yoga University, Professor Madam Surya Kalavati Garu in absentia, and respect Registrar of Yoga University, Professor Vijayaragha Prasad Garu, and our beloved Principal, Professor G. Sam Sevareddy Garu, and our today's speaker, Dr. V. Raghu Garu, AP SAC Senior Scientist, and also teaching, non-teaching students in electronic, print and electronic media. That it is a great pleasure to sit before you to speak few words on this occasion. The Department of Geology organized a one-day webinar on to restore our Earth on the occasion of Earth Day. Earth is mainly dominated by anthroposphere. So man's survival in Earth is mainly depend upon the plants and animal organisms that are including the biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, pseudosphere, and the upper part of the crust. So man requires clean air for respiration, pure for drinking for water, and also certain useful mineral deposits for various other purposes. So human population that is tremendously increasing due to high birth rate and low death rate. Our population was 1 billion in 1850, but now it is 5 billions, but it is now going to 6 billions by the end of this century. So man's survival and that is mainly dependent on two important factors. One is for natural geological process of disaster nature, which cannot control by man. For example, cyclones, hurricanes, earthquakes, and the second one related to environment changes brought out by man without a better living. For example, deforestation, soil erosion, and also for the construction of the river and diversion of water from surplus areas to deficit areas. So then for atmosphere, so atmosphere is a gaseous envelope surrounding the Earth held by gravitational attraction. So extent of 10,000 kilometers, we are having two types of spheres, thermospheres, etosphere. So the general experience of the man is feeling of low temperature while he goes to higher altitude. The temperature may decrease or increase one go to higher altitude. This is not true. The temperature may decrease or increase when we go to higher and higher altitudes. So depending upon the variation, the temperature, various temperatures have been recognized. They are the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere. So ozone layer actually present in the stratosphere protects the Earth from the ultraviolet radiation falling at night. Due to industrialization, certain chemical substances released into stratosphere react with ozone and destroy it. So this chemical substances are known as the chlorofluorocarbons, nitrous oxide, and also chlorine. These chlorofluorocarbons are known as the freons. They are the colorless, odorless, lighter, cheap, non-toxic, non-flammable, are mostly used in the refrigerators, air conditioners, and also in the production of plastic foams. So these chlorine radicals are continuously regenerated and decomposed into ozone and chlorofluorocarbons. This regularly, thus transporting agents like regularly transported chlorine radicals.
Okay, please, you continue.
Depleting the ozone layer. So this depletion of ozone layer is nothing but a ozone hole. Due to ozone hole, our ultraviolet radiation into the atmosphere, due to this ozone hole, so this aging of the skin cancer, skin cataract, and also skin burns, so damage to fish production, and also for effects on photosynthesis. So the temperature of the Earth's surface is mainly balance of the sun rays that strike the Earth heat radiated by the back into the atmosphere. 75% of the solar energy is reached the Earth's surface, and remaining heat is radiated back into the outer space. So some of the heat is trapped by the carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor. They add to heat, the atmosphere causes the global warming. So this phenomenon is known as the greenhouse effect. Huge amount of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere due to vehicular exhaust, the furnace of power plants, and also for the fossil fuel burns and also forest fires. So suppose if 50% of carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere increases the surface temperature of nearly 3 degrees centigrade. Suppose if 1 degree centigrade increase on the surface of the Earth, the ice caps of the polar regions melts, thereby increasing the level of seawater nearly 90 centimeters. Suppose if I increase 90 centimeters of water, some of the countries like Bangladesh, Maldives, and Netherlands will get submerged. And also some of the states in our India like Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, and also coastal Andhra will also get submerged. So how to restore our earth is, so best to restore our earth is by growing plants, trees, and also forests at the same time to stop the production of chlorofluorocarbons. Thank you, sir, for giving this nice opportunity. Now over to President of today's function.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor M. Surakalavati, Madam Garu, in absence here. Distinguished Registrar, Professor D. Vijayarao Prasad Garu. Convener of this webinar, Dr. G. Sudarshan Raju, members of the organizing committee and faculty of the Department of Geology, Dr. K. Raghubabu, Dr. V. Sanyata, Dr. Jan J. Raju, Dr. S. Srinivas Gaud, respected resource person, Dr. V. Raghu, Senior Scientist, Andhra Pradesh Space Application Center, Vijayawada, print and electronic media in absence here, and all participants to this national webinar on to restore our earth on the occasion of the Earth Day. I welcome you all to this one-day national webinar, which is not only relevant but also pertinent on this disastrous pandemic occasion. Our department people rightly selected an important topic which is relevant on this occasion, which is going to debate on environment, global warming, groundwater sustainability, and climate change in different dimensions, and which is very, very important to sustain not only the physical features but also biological features. So definitely this webinar will going to benefit the participants throughout the world because it is virtual webinar. Almost all parts of not only India but outside also observing the interactions in this webinar. And I thank the department for giving me this opportunity to welcome the delegates and participants and guests to this webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. So now I request Registrar to speak few words on this occasion.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
I would like to first congratulate the Department of Geology for having come forward to organize this webinar on the occasion of the Earth Day, which happens to be on 22nd April. The topic they have chosen is to restore our Earth, which is by far a very important aspect, as we all understand, because we are already facing the brunt of these anthropogenic activities that man has self-destructive damages, which we are. On one hand, we speak about the science and forefront activities and comforts, creating comfort zone for himself. But on the other hand, the aspects that we are damaging, on the other hand, is something which is also need to be weighed thoroughly, and all the corrective measures need to be done. I think we have gone very far down. People say that repair is something not very easy at this stage, but the pandemic situation has shown some ways and means how, if you stop mankind activity, how the restoration of Mother Earth and nature was also proven, shown to some extent. But it's a very short period to make a full-time guess or this thing. But I'm sure that if we stop or contain some of these man-made activities, certainly the nature has a very compelling power to come back, and it's a great leveler, as we know. The nature knows how to level itself. So, however, the Earth Day is celebrated all across the world to promote the awareness related to Earth's environment. People's participation in preserving Earth is a must, and we all need to take up with great care this aspect. The goal of clean, green, and pure Earth can't be achieved without people's participation. It cannot be just over meetings and just forgetting does not make any sensible progress in this aspect. So the celebrating Earth Day brings people closer to Earth. They are directly or indirectly initiated into the responsibility they have towards the Earth. We must observe Earth Day, as it is correctly said, every day, not just on April 22nd, once a year. So with this brief comments, I congratulate the convener of this wonderful webinar, and also all the department members who have come forward to take part in it. And thanks, and also would like to thank the resource person or the speaker for today's webinar, Dr. V. Raghu Garu. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving me this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, tea done. Tea. Please. Tea. Chai.
Start the progress.
You continue.
అక్కడికి వెళ్తాం సార్ మేము కొంతమంది స్టూడెంట్స్ జాయిన్ అవుతారు
అవునా
Sir, you
ఇప్పుడు 180 కనెక్షన్ అనేది 180
సూర్యుడప్పటికి మళ్ళీ
తీసుకో ఇదే
రెండు తీసుకెళ్ళండి ఇలా అండి. కంగ్రాచులేషన్స్ సార్.
Good morning. Could you hear me? Internet. Sir Raghu sir, good morning. Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure and privilege to give introduction to one of the prominent personalities of the scientific domain, especially in space applications. Dr. V. Raghu obtained PhD from one of the prestigious universities from Andhra Pradesh, that's Sri Venkateswara University, way back in 1990. And later, after a gap of couple of years, he had joined APSRAC in 1992. And then he has involved in exploration of groundwater, resources, watershed development, disaster management using geospatial technologies for a more than couple of decades. And after bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh, APSRAC is renamed as the Andhra Pradesh Space Application Center, APSAC, with broader scope and objective. And Dr. Raghu is associated with this APSAC. He is involved in several prestigious projects, which includes Digital India Land Records Modernization Program, sponsored by Survey Settlements and Land Records Department of Land Records, AP. And he was a project manager for AP Mineral and Sand Vehicle Tracking Solution. Preparation of District Survey Report, sponsored by Department of Mines and Geology, Government of AP. And he was also keenly involved in site suitability studies for establishment of electronics and IT hubs in AP using geospatial technologies, sponsored by ITC and C Department. And geospatial technologies for biodiversity studies in AP, sponsored by AP Biodiversity Board. And further, he has life membership in several prestigious scientific bodies in India. They include Indian Society of Remote Sensing Dehradun, Geological Society of India Bangalore, Indian Geophysical Union Hyderabad, and Indian Society of Geomatics Ahmedabad, to name few. He has published more than 50 papers in journals of international repute, and presently is a senior scientist called Scientist CF at APSAC Vijayawada. Now we have pleasure and privilege to request Dr. V. Raghu to take over the proceedings of the day. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. V. Raghu, please.
రిక్వెస్ట్
మీరు చెప్పండి
మీరు చెప్పండి సార్ ఇక్కడ నుంచి
ఇంట్లో సార్ సార్ could you unmute your microphone? Thank
My
you,
voice
very
is
kind of
audible?
you.
Yes,
Yeah, very much, very kind of you.
My voice is audible?
Yes. Very much,
Thank you very much.
very
Hope
kind
my-
of you, sir. So glad to see you after a long time.
Yes. I'm very happy to see you all in this occasion.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ
We too, sir.
My slide is visible for you?
Yes. So much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you before you all, my friends and my seniors. I thank our registrar and our principal, Yogi Vyamna University, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you before you all. And my special thanks to Dr. Sudarshan Raju, the convener of this event, for inviting me to deliver a lecture on any topic of my interest. He gave me a full freedom for me to to choose any subject. So I have chosen our own subject where we have a lot of domain expertise. So now today I am going to speak on hydrogeomorphological mapping using remote sensing and GIS techniques, a case study of YSR Kadpa district, Andhra Pradesh. As all of you know, hydrogeomorphology is a technical term, but it is nothing but our groundwater prospecting. I have chosen this topic as it is a very relevant topic as on today's present day scenario. So I am going to give a lecture for about 1 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes. The duration of lecture goes about 1 hour 15 minutes, and I request you to have a patient hearing.
తినేసాను మేడం
రాదు
టీ నారా వస్తా తినేసానా
Okay, to say a few words about my organization where I am working, Abstract serves in the following technology-enabled services like remote sensing, digital image processing, geographical information system, and GPS. Abstract is maintaining a centralized satellite data bank and digital data for the entire state of Andhra Pradesh to provide services in mapping, monitoring, and modeling of natural resources using geospatial technology and catering the needs of various government departments in the state as well as in the country also. So one more thing is, Abstract is the 10th organization recognized by Ministry of Defence, Government of India to digitize unrestricted survey of India topo sheets on 1:50,000 scale. And this is the only state government organization in the country to have that distinction. That is the distinction we have got to digitize unrestricted survey of India topo sheets on 1:50,000 scale. This is permission was given by Ministry of Defence, Government of India. Now, coming to the subject, this is the satellite mosaic of our Andhra Pradesh state, and this is a satellite mosaic of Landsat 8. And as you know, the western half of the Andhra Pradesh state is not in green color and is very pale in color when compared to tonal and texture characteristics, whereas on the eastern side of our Andhra Pradesh is almost everything is red in color. That shows it is full of vegetation. The reason is the western side of Andhra Pradesh experiences very low rainfall and very high relative humidity and very high wind velocities. As a result of that, the aridity index And the drought is also very prominent on the western side of Andhra Pradesh, that districts are covering like Kurnool, Anantapur, Kadapa, and part of Prakasham, all those things. Whereas on the eastern side, the districts has very good rainfall. They experience more than 1000 mm rainfall, and they have very green in color. And you can see this is Godavari Basin, and this is Krishna Basin, and this is our rice bowl of our Andhra Pradesh state, and with a lot of greenery and lot of agricultural activity. This is our great Kadapa Basin, and as all of you know, it is studied by so many people in the country as well as in the abroad. And just for a purpose of our academic interest, I am showing you this slide, the Kadapa Basin, this satellite mosaic of our Kadapa Basin. And you can see these are the Nagarjuna Sagar, and these are the backwaters of Krishna River, Srisailam Dam, and this is the backwaters of our Somasila Reservoir, and this is our Veligodu Reservoir, and this is our Penne, this is our Chitravati, and this is our Papagni, and this is our Cheyeru. All these features you can see in this satellite mosaic of our Kadapa Basin. Next comes our study area. This is the satellite mosaic of our Kadapa district, showing various geological formations, right from starting from Archeans. This is Raichote, this Lakiredipalli areas, these are all is covered with Archean granites and granodiorites or peninsular gneissic complex, and this is Golcharu quartzites and conglomerates, and this is our Vempalli formation, this is our Tadipatris, this is our Bairankondas, and like that various geological formations are you can see in this particular district mosaic. And as I told you already, this is our Somshila, backwaters of Somshila, and this is our Cheyeru River, and this is our Annamaya Sagar Reservoir, and this is our Mailavaram Reservoir, and this is our Veerabrahmendra Swami Reservoir, and this is our river Pennar, this is river Papagni, this is river Cheyer. Like that, we can see all these major rivers in our particular Kadapa district. As far as the rainfall is concerned, the average annual rainfall of our Kadapa district is 710 millimeters. The mean seasonal distribution of rainfall in southwest monsoon is 402.4 mm, whereas in the northeast monsoon it is 239.1 mm. That means, as you know, southwest monsoon means Nairuti Rutupavanalu, northeast monsoon is Isanya Rutupavanalu, we can call it in Telugu, and the rainfall in winter season is 2.4 mm, whereas in summer season it is 65.7 mm in summer, that is during March to May. The percentage distribution of rainfall season-wise includes 56.7% in southwest monsoon, 33.7% in northeast monsoon, and 0.34% in winter, and 9.3% in summer. This is the rainfall distribution in the Kadapa district. And we have collected this rainfall data from Directorate of Economics and Statistics Department, daily rainfall data, weekly rainfall data, monthly rainfall data, and we have accumulated all the rainfall data and yearly rainfall data we have accumulated for more than 30 years, and ISO heights are prepared like this. The ISO heights include, you can see the distribution of rainfall in this particular ISO heights, and this is all this mandal headquarters locations are also given in this particular map. These are all mandal headquarters, and these are the ISO heights distribution of rainfall showing this. Whereas in the western part, the rainfall is very low. It is 640 and 483, 521, 581 like this. In Kondapuram, Simadripuram, Tondur, Pulvendra, Lingala, Vemla areas, the rainfall is very low. Whereas in this part of the western part, the rainfall is relatively very high. That is 746 in Kalsapadu, Pormabilla area, and 619 in Brahmangari Mattam, and 705 in Atluru, and in 783 at Rajampet, and 941 at Koduru. Like that, this is the distribution of rainfall through isohydrates. And this is the road network of our Kadapa district. APSAC has carried out a major project for Panchayat Raj department. So we have collected, recently the project is completed. We have collected all the types of roads of Panchayat Raj roads as well as R&B roads, and we have mapped those roads, and we have mapped the type of roads, whether it is metalled, whether it is unmetalled, whether it is black topped, or whether it's a contract, whether it's a footpath. Like that, all road networks, all transport network is mapped, and this is the road district. So this symbol indicates R&B roads, whereas this symbol indicates Panchayat Raj roads. And this is the major road network in our Kadapa district. And each and every mandal headquarters are also located in this particular map. And this is a drainage and surface water bodies of our Kadapa district. So this entire drainage network using Survey of India topo sheets is digitized, and surface water bodies are also digitized, and this drainage network is updated using high resolution satellite data, and this is the broad drainage network. But because of the density of drainages, you are not seeing the individual drains, and it is looking like just as some sort of a blue color as the background. You are not able to see each and every drain because of the density of the drainage network in this particular map. The scale of the map also matters while showing these particular things. So this is the drainage and surface bodies network. Coming to this map, this is the, based on the drainage network, the Kadapa district is divided into various basins, and this is our Cheyeru basin, this is our Papakni basin, and this is our Sagileru basin, and this is our lower Penneru, this is middle Penneru, this is upper Penneru in that comes in Anantapur district. Like that, different drainage basins are also demarcated in our Kadapa district. This is our drainage basin map. Using the drainage network, these drainage basins are demarcated. Again, this is a slope map of our Kadapa district. Generally, earlier we used to generate this slope map by measuring the distance between each contour in the Survey of India topo sheet. As you know, if the distance between each contour increases, the slope also decreases. And if the distance between each contour decreases, naturally the slope will be increases. Like that, 7 slope categories are delineated, like nearly level, very gently sloping, moderately sloping, strongly sloping, moderately steep to steep sloping, and very steep sloping. These are the 7 standard slope categories. But this map is prepared using a digital elevation model. This is not prepared through Survey of India topo sheet contour network, but this map is prepared using a digital elevation model. This is the slope map of our Kadapa district. This red indicates very steep sloping areas, whereas this yellow patches in the middle of our Kadapa district indicates nearly level to very gently sloping areas. These green patches indicates strongly sloping areas. These are the green patches. As you know, this part is covered with our Gandikota quartzites. These are all strongly sloping areas, and these are all Bairankonda quartzites. These are all green patches, whereas these red are all very steeply sloping areas. Coming to groundwater, as all of us know, that groundwater is a major source for purpose of water requirements in the country. More than 90% of the rural areas and nearly 30% of the urban population depend on groundwater for drinking purpose. It accounts nearly for 60% of the total irrigation potential in the country, irrigating about more than 32 million hectares. As all of us know, the dependency on the groundwater is expected to increase in future due to increase in population. keeping in view of the importance of groundwater in the country, keeping in view of the drought conditions in the country, the government of India has formulated a major project called Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission in our country. So our Andhra Pradesh, this project is covered in this mapping of this project is covered in different phases, whereas our Andhra Pradesh is covered in phase 1 and phase 3. This study is carried out for the Ministry of Rural Areas and Employment, Government of India. This project was sponsored by National Remote Sensing Center, ISRO, Government of India. The objective is to map lithology, geomorphology, and structural characteristics of an area on 1:50,000 scale and to integrate the same to derive potential groundwater prospect zones and to recommend suitable structures for groundwater recharge. This is the objective of this project. For this project, the satellite data used is IRS-1D LIS3 data during phase 1 project during 1999 and IRS P6 LIS3 satellite data during 2006. And the outcome of this project is various hydrogeomorphic units are delineated and suitable recharge structures are proposed at drinking water affected habitations. This is the outcome of this particular project. It's a very big project and it has a very good database for the entire country as far as the groundwater prospects are concerned. And this is the flowchart of this particular project. So here IRS P6 data with WGS 84 data is taken, on-screen interpretation is carried out, existing maps are consulted, and SOA topo sheet with WGS 84 data is consulted, and all this base map, lithology, structural, and geomorphology, hydrological information is integrated, and all these 5 layers are combined together, formed a hydrogeomorphologic units, and field information like well inventory data is integrated into this, and the location of recharge structures are identified, and the evaluation of groundwater prospects based on all these parameters is carried out, and a map composition with a very good extensive exhaustive legend is prepared, and groundwater prospects maps on 1:50,000 scale is prepared in the end. So in this particular map, in each survey of India topo sheet, 17 layers are included. These 17 layers include administrative boundaries, canals, drainage line feature, railway lines, roads, drainage polygon features, settlement point features, springs, rain gauges, wells, water resource development plans, line feature, water resource development polygon features, irrigated area. Again, it is surface water irrigated and groundwater irrigated. These type of irrigated areas are separated. Lithology, structure, and geomorphology, and the combination of lithology and geomorphology is called lithgeo. So this like that, these 17 layers are included in each and every Survey of India topo sheet map area. And from Survey of India, these 9 layers are derived, whereas using this satellite data, these 5 layers are derived, and interactively, these 3 layers are derived. This water resource development plan and line feature and polygon feature, all these are derived like this. So these are the exhaustive database in each, and you will have for each and every topo sheet area for this under this project. And right from the beginning, let us start with the geology of our Kadpa district. So as all of us know, these are all pink area indicates the granodiorites and peninsular gneissic complex, and these are all Gulcheru quadrates, and these are Vempali formations, these are all Tadipatri formations, this is our these are all quadrates, and these are all Kambam formations, these are all Bairankonda quadrates. All this is the geological map prepared by Geological Survey of India, Government of India on 1:250,000 scale. As all of us know, anybody consults Geological Survey of India maps only as far as the geology is concerned, because they are the authority in this subject. So we also consulted Geological Survey of India maps for our all mapping purposes. And this is the legend for each and every district resources map. So this is written, this is stratigraphical sequence wise, all these lithological formations and their age is given, and what are the symbols, what are the type of structural features are also there, and structural index is given, and what are the mineral deposits are also present in this particular district are also given in this particular legend. So in our Kadapa district, as far as the minerals are concerned, this is asbestos, pyrites, clays, diamond, gold, iron ore, lead and zinc, and limestone. All these formations, talc and tungsten and uranium, magnesite are also given in this as a list of minerals available in Kadapa district. Among these minerals, some are economical and some are not economical, but wherever this occurrence of these minerals are given, the location of these particular minerals are given in this particular map. And this is the geomorphology of that particular Kadapa district. Geomorphology is nothing but the surface expressions, surface features of this particular earth surface. There are different geomorphological features are there, like fluvial landforms or denudation landforms, structural landforms, aeolian landforms, glacial landforms, are all these are there. But in our Kadapa district, this glacial and aeolian landforms are absent. Only fluvial landforms, denudation landforms, and structural landforms are there. So these are all red color. Whatever you are seeing in this map, these are all structural landforms that are structural hills, and whereas in this particular granitic terrain you find denudation landforms and residual hills, denudation hills and residual hills, whereas in this, these are all yellow color. Whatever you are seeing on this map, these are all peneplain, shallow weathered, peneplain, moderately weathered. These are all denudation landforms. Like this, various landforms are present all along the major course of the rivers. Again, this is the structural map of our Kadapa district. Structural map includes folds, faults, fractures, joints, lineaments, or all these things. So they have gone more into details of these structural features and axial trace of fold, ridge parallel, scarp parallel, like different structural categories are also delineated using satellite data as well as the Survey of India topo sheets. You know, this is the granitic terrain, and where these are all red lines that are crisscrossing in this particular terrain, these are all dolerite dikes. And whereas these are all scarp parallel and ridge parallel features are also marked in this particular Kadapa Basin part in this area, whereas in the granitic part, these are all dolerite dikes. And it is a combination of geology, geomorphology, and structure. So all these three maps are combined together, and groundwater prospects maps is generated using GIS techniques. And a small legend is given here, because for this particular entire district, exhaustive legend is not possible on par with Rajiv Gandhi National Drinking Water Mission standards. So a small legend is given in this particular area based on the color of this particular map. What are the groundwater prospects are also given. I'll tell you what is the exhaustive legend that is given in this particular project while going into details. And for example, this is the Survey of India topo sheet 57J by 10. This is area that includes Kamalapuram area.
సార్ అయితే సెలవులు ఆడున్నాడు మా వీసీ మేడం
Hello?
వాళ్ళు సార్ అయితే ఆడినాడు వీసీ బ్లాక్ అంటే దాంట్లో బిల్డింగ్ లో
Hello? Okay. This is area is covering Kamalapuram area. This is Kamalapuram area, and this is Kundero river is coming. This is Cheyero, this Tanero river is coming, whereas this is Papagni river is coming, and here it is Pagero river is coming. It is a confluence of four rivers, four major streams or rivers. That is why we have selected this particular topo sheet. It is 57J by 10 covering Kamalapuram area. The area of each and every topo sheet, as you know, for the purpose of just academic interest, I'm telling you, the each and every topo sheet covers 730 square kilometers. Each and every topo sheet on 1:50,000 scale covers 730 square kilometers. So a map with 730 square kilometers area is generated for our entire Andhra Pradesh, or even for the entire country is developed under this project, where the groundwater prospects maps are generated for the entire country. Now I am talking about for entire Andhra Pradesh and with a special reference to Kadapa district. And this is the hydrogeomorphological map or groundwater prospects map of this particular 57J/10 Survey of India topo sheet. Various features are given in this particular area. And as you know, this is Penner, this is Kundu, this is Pager, and this is Papagni, and this Kamalapuram located is here. And these are all structural hills, and these are all pediments, and these are all moderately weathered pedoplain areas. This yellow or shallow weathered pedoplain areas. This blue or floodplain areas. Like that, all these features are given. As I told you, no, this is the exhaustive legend under this project. This is under having nearly 12 to 13 rows are there in this particular thing. This is the map unit. Sorry, this is the map unit, and this the geological sequence is there in the second column, and this is the geomorphic unit wise description is given, and this is depth to water levels is given. This is recharge. What are the recharge conditions under this well given? Like that, all is given. I'll explain to you again in detail when we go into details of this project. Again, what is the type of structure, rainwater harvesting structure that is recommended in this particular area is also given, and what are the limitations, what are the problems, and what are the remarks of this particular map is also given in this particular area. And this is one portion of this particular 57J/10. And because of our GIS techniques, we can cut short, we can do any type of manipulations using this map. So we can do any type of things. And this is our, again, 57J/10 area with the zoomed portion. The central part of the topo sheet is zoomed. And the corresponding map for this is, zoomed part is like this. This is again zoomed and showing for purpose of our details. This is, you can see various hydromorphic units like FPC, floodplain canal command. This is FPS, floodplain shallow. PPS, buried pedoplain shallow. Like PPS, pedoplain shallow weathered. Like that, various geomorphic units are given in this particular map. And legend of this particular is also given. As I told you, this is the map unit, and this is the geological sequence or rock type. This geomorphic unit and landforms, and depth to water level is given. Recharge conditions are given. What is the type of aquifer material is given, whether it is loose sediments, whether it is permeable rock, whether it is fissured rock, whether it's a fractured rock, whether it's a weathered rock, whether it's impervious rock. All this aquifer material, what is the type of aquifer material is also described in this particular column. And the type of well suitable, whether it's a dug well is suitable, ductum bore well is suitable, tube well is suitable. What is the type of well suitable in this particular area is given, and what is the approximate depth range of wells is also given in this particular area, and the approximate yield range of these wells is also given, and the success rate of the wells is given, and what is the quality of the water is also given, and what is the surface area, irrigated area in this particular unit is also given, and subsequently what is the structure, rainwater harvesting structure you can recommend, and what is the priority of that structure, whether it is high, low, medium priority, that is also given, And the remarks are also given in this particular topo sheet area for this particular legend. And this is one particular Lingala Mandal in Kadapa district showing various geomorphic units. So using the GIS techniques, once the map is prepared, you can put that mandal boundary and then clip that particular mandal map or village map like that, and you can display it for the purpose of our planning or for any decision making. And this is the Lingala Mandal showing various hydrogeomorphic units in this particular area. And so what is the map symbol, what is the geomorphic unit, lithology and groundwater prospects, what are this, and all this given for this particular map. And this is the zoomed portion of this particular legend for the purpose of our reference. Like that, you have earlier seen the Lingala Mandal. Now you are seeing only Lingala village. In particular, Lingala village, only 2 units are there. One is structural hill and one is PPS. Like that, you can see, you can clip a village map or a mandal map or a taluk map or a block map or a assembly constituency map or a parliament constituency map or any survey of India topo sheet map, like that. Like that, various combinations, permutations, combinations we can make, and we can see for our and can be used for all our developmental programs. So we have also carried out a major project under Rajiv Gandhi Phase 4 about the groundwater quality mapping. So 9 parameters are taken as far as the groundwater quality is concerned. This data is collected from Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Department, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Post-monsoon data and pre-monsoon data for these 9 parameters are collected. These parameters are pH, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solids, alkalinity, hardness, sulfates, chlorides, nitrates, fluorides, and nitrates and chlorides. Like that, 9 parameters are we have carried out and we have mapped in this area. And you can see this map, and you can see this legend also we have given like this. So this is the legend for our pre-monsoon, post-monsoon. This is suitable or not suitable, where all these things are given, and the remarks are also given in this particular column. This is also very much useful as far as the planning is concerned, and where to put our protected water supply scheme, where to construct a ground level reservoir or overhead reservoir. All these things we can planning what is the population, how much population we can distribute this water, what is the quality of the water, like that. All these things can be estimated through these particular maps. So I'll show you some of the field photographs of this particular area, and this is our Penner River, and this is our Siddhotam Fort. This is near Siddhotam, near Penner River, and this is a valley fill supporting very good agricultural activity. You can see I was standing on a hill in this particular area, and I have taken this photograph. And this is also a hill, and this is also a hill, and in between these 2 hills is a very big narrow fluvial valley, and is showing a very good agricultural activity. And this is one of the wells that are dug under this valley fill landform. You can see beautiful soil here without any rocks. All these unconsolidated sediments are excavated from this well to get water for irrigation in this well. See, this water is just they are dug, they are throwing out outside this, and heaps of soil is accumulated here. So this is the level of occurrence of groundwater in this particular landforms area. And this is the cross section of a floodplain. It's a floodplain across a very close to the big river, and this is the cross section of the floodplain. And you can see all this very good fertile land, fertile soil in this adjacent to the floodplain area, which are very good for our agricultural activity. can see the paddy grown in this floodplain area, and you see this how the water is getting with very good force and amount of water with very good force, and how this paddy is grown in this floodplain area. You can see in this photograph, and denudation landforms. As far as the denudation landforms are concerned, so these are the plain land adjacent to hills, and these are all black cotton soils. And one of our colleague is measuring the distance of flow of water for calculation of the yield of this particular bore well. And this is the protected water supply scheme that is developed to supply drinking water for all these villages. This is also peatland shallow weathered area, and this is a black soil area covered with buried peatland area covered with black soil. Like that, this is the various denudation landforms I'm showing you. And again, these are the bore wells and buried peatland shallow weathered, and this is a peatland weathered area. This is with red soil. This is with black soil, and this is the estimation of flow measurement from horizontal pipe. All these things are you can see in this particular area. And this is the peatland shallow weathered area with supporting some floriculture activity with marigold. And this is the peatland moderately weathered area that is supporting very good cropping pattern. And I want to tell you one thing here. So if you say shallow weathered, it is the depth of weathering is from 0 to 10 meters. Whether it is peatland moderately weathered means the depth of weathering means 10 to 20 meters of weathering. And there are peatland deeply weathered also there. So in that area, the depth of weathering is more than 20 meters. So like that, three types of categories are there: shallow weathered area, moderately weathered area, and deeply weathered area. And this is the cross section of the well showing moderately weathered peatland. You can see these are all weathered rock, completely weathered. There is a moderately weathered, this is a well dug in a moderately peatland area. And this is a well cross section well showing a shallow weathered peatland. So in this area, as I told you, the depth of weathering is 0 to 10 meters, whereas in this particular area, the depth of weathering is 10 to 20 meters. And this is a pediment area. Pediment is nothing but it's a rock cut surface occurring on a plain area. That means slightly undulating area also. You can find this also, this type of geomorphic units. It's a pediment area, it's a rock cut surface. And this is a series of dolerite dikes on a residual hill. You can see this is a dolerite dike, and this is a dolerite dike, and this is a dolerite dike that is cutting across this hill and running for kilometers together. This is a series of dolerite dikes and a residual hill. These type of features are you can see in a granitic terrain very conspicuously. This is a residual hill. This is the shallow weathered peatland area. As far as the structural landforms, you can see the cross section of this particular thing where you can see a very good displacement is there. Displacement of rocks is there. It's a fault plane. This is a fault plane, and these things are displaced rocks. These are the displaced rocks. It's a sign of a beautiful structural features. This all of you know. This is our gorge near Gandikota. This is river Pennar is flowing through this gorge. These are all quartzites. The river Pennar is cutting across through these quartzites and passing through. And as a result of this particular fluvial action, a big gorge is formed, and it's a very good one of the structural features of our study. And this is the linear ridge. This is the Bairankonda quartzites in Kambam area, Prakasham district. This is a linear ridge. As part of the wind energy development, we have visited this area for location of potential wind energy sites in this area. So I have taken this photograph. We have climbed this particular linear ridge, and we have located a potential wind energy station in this area. And the NETCAP people subsequently established a wind farm in this particular linear ridge, and they are getting good wind energy out of this particular location. And this is the structural hill area. It's a beautiful escarpment is there. You can see it's a structural hill of quartzites. And this also a structural hill trending in the east-west direction. You can see the very good waterfalls that are flowing through these particular hill ranges. These are also Bairankonda quartzites. This is near Penchalkona. These hills are near Penchalkona. And this is a dike ridge. You can find it, this type of features in a granitic terrain. What is a dike means? As all of you know, it's a fracture filled body, it's a discordant body, it's a fracture filled body, and you can see this dike in all granitic terrains. And again, it's a Gandikota reservoir. These are all Gandikota quartzites, and this is a Gandikota reservoir. This is the Pennar River flowing in this particular direction. It's a Gandikota reservoir. And again, this is a Cuesta hill. This is also a gorge, but it's also part of the structural hills. But within the structural hills, this is the Cuesta hill. Cuesta means one is a steep, one side there is a steep escarpment there will be there, and other side there is a gradual decrease will be there, gradual slope will be there. So this type of hills are called Cuestas. And this is a ridge near Lakiredipalli. It's a granitic terrain, as I told you earlier, Lakiredipalli, and this is a ridge is formed on this particular hill. And this is a structural hill again near Chitwell. These are all part of Bairankonda quartzites. And it's also periplain shallow weathered near Rajapalam, near Rajampet. And this is our Cheyeru River, Nandalur. This is a railway bridge that is passing through this Cheyeru River, and this is our Cheyeru River near Nandalur. And again, this is a Somasila Reservoir that is just outside our Kadapa district in the Nellore district. This is the Somasila Reservoir. These are all Bairankonda quartzites. And this is the residual hill near Yeddulakonda Swami temple near Vempalli. And again, this is a very good escarpment. You can see beautiful escarpment near Idupulpaya, near our Vempalli area. It's a beautiful escarpment is there near Idupulpaya. And this again residual mount, Mopuru temple near Pulivendula. It's a residual mount. And it's a floodplain area. This is the river Papagni. Adjacent to the river Papagni, a beautiful fertile agricultural land. And as far as the geomorphology is concerned, it's a floodplain area with very good groundwater prospects adjacent to a Papagni river near Vempalli. And again, this is a dike near Galividu, and residual hill near Sambepalli is the periplain shallow weathered area, and these are all residual hills. And periplain shallow weathered area, Ramapuram, near our Yogi Vemana University. One of our colleagues doing the field work has taken this particular photograph, Ramapuram near Yogi Vemana University, showing periplain shallow weathered. These are all flower gardens, floriculture is developed. And as far as the minerals are concerned, this is the white varieties, snow white varieties near Vemala. It's an underground mine where this variety is more productive along the faults in the trap areas, in the sill areas. This is an underground mine near Vemala. It's a snow white varieties. And this is the Mangampeta satellite image of a Mangampeta barite deposits, Mangampeta barite deposit area, and this is the barite deposit, and these are the barite dumps are there. And these are all agricultural lands. Red is are all agricultural land. This is a water body, and this is a water body in the middle of this particular open cast mine. And these are all hill ranges. Linear ridges are there here. Very big indentation. Structural hills are there. Linear ridges are there. So this is a Mangampeta grey barite deposit. This is the field photograph of this particular open cast mine of grey barite deposits of Mangampeta. These are all benches, and these are all vehicles are moving in these particular haul roads, and these are all barite dumps are there. This is the Mangampeta barite deposits of grey barite deposits. I did my PhD on this particular Vemula and Mangampeta barite deposits, and just for my interest, I have kept these slides. And one more thing is there, the criteria for recommending a rainwater harvesting structures. So there are different criteria are there to recommend a rainwater harvesting structures. So for that, what is the criteria means? Weathered peneplain should be there. Moderate density of lineament should be there. Upstream of the groundwater irrigated areas, a structure should be constructed. And for constructing a structure, there must be some few water extraction structures. Bore wells are there, should be there in the downstream side. And 0 to 5% slope should be selected. And these are the essential things. These are the things that are to be avoided in this area. So avoid black soil areas, avoid dikes, rock outcrops, avoid lithological contacts, avoid command areas, avoid salt affected lands, avoid double cropped areas. So for if you construct a rainwater harvesting structure, means there must be some weathering in this area so that water can percolate downwards and recharge the downstream wells. And there must be some lineaments also should be there to percolate water through those lineaments to reach the wells in the downstream. So upstream of the irrigated area should be there, because if the structure is constructed upstream of the groundwater irrigated areas, so the downstream of the areas will be automatically get benefited. So there must be a few wells, at least 4 or 5 wells, when the structure is going to be constructed in this particular area, at any particular area. So 0 to 5% slope you have to maintain in this particular area. And slope is also very much important to construct a rainwater structure. Black soils are avoided because black soils are, there is no percolation of water in the black soil areas. So dikes and rock outcrops should be also there. Dike is a barrier of groundwater. You know that. Dike is a barrier of groundwater. So dike will obstruct the movement of groundwater flow. So that's why dikes are rock outcrops should be avoided. And lithological contact should be avoided. Command area should be avoided because already canal command or tank command areas, there is already irrigation water is there and surplus water is there, and good agricultural activity will be there. And in those areas, if you construct a water, there is a chances of getting alkalinity or a salinity development will occur. That is why command areas should be avoided, and salt affected areas should be avoided, because already land is salt affected. Again, there is no point in constructing a rainwater structure there to enhance that salt affected area. It will generally enhances the deposition of alkalinity or salt in those areas if you construct a structure. And double cropped areas are also avoided because there is a possibility of submergence of this double cropped areas because of the water storage. That is why double cropped areas are avoided. So these are the types of rainwater harvesting structures: check dams, percolation tanks, Gavian structures, subsurface dikes, farm ponds, continuous contour trenches, discharge pits are some of the examples of this particular check dams for this particular rainwater harvesting structures. So generally, check dams may be recommended on first order or second order streams having 0 to 5% slope. The cost of this particular check dam comes around 50,000 to 1 lakh for a structure of about 10 to 12 meters length. This is an approximate rough estimation. Percolation tanks may be recommended on first to third order streams located on plain areas with sufficient weather zone fractures and where acquisition of the land for large areas is possible. Because percolation tanks occupies a very large area, so that acquisition of the land should not be a problem there in such areas. So, if sufficient weathering should be there, sufficient fracture should be there, and large for acquisition of the land of tanks with more number of frequent intervals are prepared over a single large structure, because by constructing a more than 50 meters or 100 meters structure, we can construct more number of structures with the 10 meters, 15 meters, like that. Because as a result, the gestation period will be there, and more fillings will be there for each and every small structure when compared to a large structure of more than 100 meters or 150 meters, like that. So 10 to 15 meters or 20 meter structures are preferred over a large structure. Gabion structures. Gabion structures are nothing but a low-cost substitute for cement check dams constructed across small streams to conserve stream flows, and it is a small bund across the stream that is available and packed in a mesh of steel wires anchored on the banks of the stream. In the course of time, the sediment gets deposited in the interstices of each and every boulder, and the vegetation will grow ultimately, and the bund slowly becomes impermeable and retains surface runoff and acts as a barrier, and generally water will be stored in this particular Gabion structure, and in the course of time the water will percolate to the downstream side. And the continuous contour trenches are generally 0.3 to 0.5 meter deep, made along the contour lines on small hillocks having 5 to 15% slope to reduce soil erosion and to allow rainwater to infiltrate to the ground. These are the continuous contour trenches. Here 5 to 15% slope is also permittable, because it is not only reduces soil erosion, but also allows rainwater to percolate into the ground to recharge the wells in the downstream side. Contour stone bunds are common in low rainfall area and are traditionally in situ soil and moisture conservation practices to help in improving moisture regime in surrounding area. Flowing water is intercepted before it attains erosive velocity by keeping suitable spacing between the bunds. Because in order to arrest the erosion, soil erosion, we have to construct these contour bunds or stone bunds to arrest the flowing water, and the spacing between the two contour bunds depends upon the slope of the area and also the soil permeability of this particular area. It is nothing but these contour bunds and stone bunds are not generally useful for groundwater recharge, but it only arrests the soil erosion. These are the check dams and percolation tanks. I wanted to tell you one thing. The purpose of the check dam is not only to recharge groundwater. Each and every check dam has a multi-purpose uses. Multiple uses are there. That means this check dam can be used as a dhobi ghat. It can be used as a cattle pond, and it can be used for pisciculture. That means fish culture in this particular volume of water, and you can also dilute the fluoride concentration in the groundwater, because our organization has studied extensively on this particular thing, and we have evaluated construction of a check dam in a high fluoride areas. It generally reduces fluoride concentration in the downstream wells. So the dam has a multiple uses, not only to recharge groundwater, but also it can be used as a cattle pond, as a dhobi ghat, as a for diluting the flow rate concentration in the downstream wells and also for pisciculture. And this is the photographs of the recharge percolation tank is used for groundwater recharge. This is in one of the watershed areas we have taken this particular photograph. So I am standing here and my colleagues are standing here, and we visited one of the watershed program for the occasion of the visit of our Principal Secretary Rural Development visit. So we have once we went before this visit and we checked these points and all the, and directly we have shown him all these facilities in a particular watershed. And this is another watershed. It's called farm pond. Farm pond is generally used for one life-saving irrigation. So when there is no rainfall and suddenly there is a drought and a standing crop is there, so in order to save the life of that standing crop, this irrigation, this water from the farm pond can be pumped and to save that standing crop, and farmer will not lose so much out of this drought condition, so that this water in the farm pond can help him to save that standing crop. This purpose of these farm ponds are generally to save this structure. And lastly, this recharge pit. These recharge pits are generally constructed in our urban areas where there is no drainage system is there. So generally in apartment areas, these recharge pits are constructed near to the borewell, so that this water collected in the upstream, in the top portion of the apartment will be get recharged, will come to this recharge pit, and the borewell adjacent to this pit will be get benefit out of this particular recharge pit. So these recharge pits are constructed where the drainage is absent and is mostly constructed in urban areas. With the water collected in the top portion of that apartment will be generally collected into, will be routed, and this water will be routed into this recharge pit, and they will be adjacent to that borewell will be there, and borewell will automatically get recharged. So these are the types of our recharge pits or and our rainwater harvesting structures. And with this, I'll end my talk, and I'm happy. If there are any queries, if there are any questions, if you have any doubts, I'm ready to clear from you. Please. Jairaj.
Sir, thank you so much for your exhaustive talk with pictorial representation illustrated whole Kadapa from tiny space to the space.
Thank you. Thank you.
We really enjoyed.
Any students are there?
More
I'm
than
happy.
40, sir, more than 40 have joined for this webinar. Sir, could you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, more than 40, which we consider is a big number in this pandemic time.
Yes, today also 5 corona cases are reported from our office, and my office is closed for today and tomorrow. So we are asked to work from home. So I am sitting in my house and I am delivering a lecture.
Wow. On one side, we are sorry because there are certain cases in your office. On the other side, we are happy you are down at your home.
Yes, I am asked to work from home today, tomorrow also. So I am sitting in my office and delivering a lecture.
Thank you, sir. Very kind of you.
Thank you.
Students.
Namaste, sir. Thank you for the nice speech of the వి రఘుబాబు గారు. సార్ నేను రహమద్ బాషా, రిటైర్డ్ స్టాటిస్టిషియన్, గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్. హలో సార్.
ప్లీజ్
సార్ నేను ఒక 2 పాయింట్స్ మీ దృష్టికి తీసుకొస్తున్నాను. అవి ఒకటి
చెప్పండి
సార్. నేను 75, 78 ఆ ప్రాంతంలో అనంతపురం జిల్లాలో ఉన్నాను సార్. ఫీల్డ్ లో నేను బిఎస్సి చేయాలి కానీ స్టాటిస్టికల్ అయినంత అక్కడ పోయినప్పుడు ఏమైందంటే అప్పుడు పాతకాలంలో బావులు ఉన్నాయి. పాతకాలంలో బావులు ఉంటే ఒకతను ఏం చేశాడు, బావి డ్రై అయిపోయింది. డ్రై అయిపోయినప్పుడు డీపెనింగ్ చేసే దానికి అతను బాంబులు అవన్నీ పెట్టి డీపెనింగ్ చేశాడు బావిని. బావి అంటే వెల్లో. అప్పుడు ఏమైందంటే వాటర్ కొద్ది డెప్త్ పోయినాక వాటర్ వచ్చింది. వాటర్ వచ్చినాక ఒక కార్నర్ లో వచ్చింది వాటర్. తర్వాత అతను ఏం చేశాడంటే ఆశ ఎక్కువైపోయి ఆ వాటర్ వచ్చే ఏరియాకు మళ్ళా బ్లాస్టరింగ్ చేసి వాటర్ కోసం ట్రై చేస్తే వాటరే రాకుండా వెళ్ళిపోయింది సార్. ఆ వాటర్ ఎక్కడ పోయి ఉంటుంది? అర్థమైందా సార్ నేను చెప్పింది?
అవునండి. అక్కడ నేను నా ఉద్దేశం ఏమంటే అక్కడ ఏదో సమ్ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ఏదో ఉండింటుంది అక్కడ ఏరియాలో. ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ద్వారా వాటర్ పర్కులేట్ అయ్యి ఆ వెల్లోకి వస్తుంటుంది. బహుశా అతను మళ్ళీ ఏదో కొద్దిగా గందరగోళం చేసి ఇంకా కొద్దిగా లోతుకు పోయినప్పుడు ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ క్లోజ్ అయిపోయి ఉంటుంది అని అనుకుంటున్నాను నేను. దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్. ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ఏదో
అవును సార్. వాటర్ అంటే
క్లోజ్ అయిపోయి
వేరే దారి పోయి ఉంటారా అంటే పక్కకు వెళ్ళిపోయి ఉంటారా వాటర్? హలో సార్.
అంటే ఒక యాక్టిఫర్ ఒక యాక్టిఫర్ అని ఉంటుంది. యాక్టిఫర్ దగ్గర ఫ్రాక్చర్ ఉంటుంది. ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ నుంచి ఈ వెల్ లోకి ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ద్వారా యాక్టిఫర్ నుంచి వాటర్ వస్తుంటుంది. ఇతను అత్యాశకు పోయి మళ్ళీ ఏదో చేయబోయి మళ్ళీ ఏదైనా బాంబులు పెట్టి పీల్చినాడో లేదంటే ఏదో ఏం చేసినాడో ఏమో. ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ క్లోజ్ అయిపోయి వచ్చే వాటర్ కూడా అనుకుంటున్నాను నేను.
ఇంకొక
అక్కడ గ్రౌండ్ కండిషన్స్ చూస్తే తప్ప మనం ఖచ్చితంగా మనం అసెస్ చేయలేము. బట్ నేను అనుకోవడము అక్కడ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ఉంటుంది డెఫినెట్ గా. ఒక మూల నుంచి వెల్లో నీళ్లు వస్తుంటాయి వేరే పక్కన యాక్టిఫర్ నుంచి. అతను ఏదో అత్యాశకు పోయి మళ్ళీ ఏదో బాంబులు పెట్టి క్లోజ్ చేసినాడో పేల్చినాడో లేదంటే ఇంకా ఏమన్నా చేసినాడో ఆ ఫ్రాక్చర్ ఉండే ఫ్రాక్చర్ కూడా క్లోజ్ అయిపోయి ఉండే నీళ్లు కూడా రాకుండా పోయింది.
ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్ సార్. సారీ క్వశ్చన్ కాదు, ఇంకో పాయింట్ అంటాను. దానికి ఏమంటే నేను రిటైర్డ్ స్టాటిస్టిషియన్, 70 ఉన్నాయి చెప్తాను సార్. కానీ ఇప్పుడు గవర్నమెంట్ 5 ఎకరాలకు రైతుకు ఒక బోర్వెల్ వేస్తున్నది. కానీ గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ అనేది మెయిన్ గా రైన్ఫాల్ మీద ఎక్కువ ఆధారం. ఈ 5 ఎకరాలకు బోరు అనే పాయింట్ మీద ఎంతవరకు సక్సెస్ అవుతుంది సార్? ఇప్పుడు ప్రభుత్వం ఇప్పుడు అమలు పరుస్తున్నది కదా. ఇప్పుడు 5 ఎకరాలకు ఒక బోర్ వేయాలా అది ఇది అనేసి. అది ఎందుకంటే ఇప్పుడు వాల్టా చట్టం కింద కొంత డిస్టెన్స్ తీసుకొని బోర్లు వేసుకుంటున్నారు. కానీ 5 ఎకరాలకు ఒక బోరు అంటే ఇది ఎంతవరకు సమంజసం అవుతుంది?
అంటే అది గవర్నమెంట్ స్కీము, గవర్నమెంట్ పాలసీ అండి. మనం ఏం చేయలేము. అది వాల్టా చట్టం కింద 5 ఎకరాల ప్రకారం అంటే వేయకూడదు. ఈ మధ్య ఒక 2-3 నెలల కిందట ఈ వాల్టా చట్టాన్ని కూడా సవరించినారు. ఆ సవరించిన వాల్టా చట్టము నాకు ఏం సవరించినారో ఏదో నాకు తెలీదు నిజంగా చెప్పాలంటే. అంతకుముందు వాల్టా చట్టము చదివినాము, ప్రమాణంగా స్పేసింగ్ ఉండాలి, గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ లో ఇంత వేయకూడదు అని అంతా చాలా పర్టికులర్ రూల్స్ రెగ్యులేషన్స్ చాలా స్ట్రిక్ట్ గా ఉండేటివి. ఈ మధ్య ఆ వాల్టా చట్టాన్ని కూడా సవరించినారు. ఆ సవరిస్తే ఆ సవరింపులు ఏమైనాయో నాకు తెలీదు. బట్ దాని ప్రకారము గవర్నమెంట్ హాస్ టేకెన్ ఎ డెసిషన్ ఫర్ ఎవ్రీ 5 acres 1 borewell షుడ్ బి దేర్ అని చెప్పేసి వేసింటారు. మేబీ దట్స్ ఎ డెసిషన్ ఆఫ్ ద గవర్నమెంట్. వీ కెనాట్ సే ఎనీథింగ్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
అండ్ మీకు చెప్తాను, 2003లో ఒక వేములవాడ అని ఉంది కరీంనగర్ జిల్లాలో. ఒక దేవాలయం, శివాలయం ఉంది, పెద్ద ఫేమస్ శివాలయం దేవాలయము. ఒక కరువు ప్రాంతం అయితే 2003లో గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ లేదు అని చెప్తే మా ఆర్గనైజేషన్ రిక్వెస్ట్ చేశారు గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ చేయమని. నేను మా సీనియర్ ఆఫీసరు వెంకటస్వామి గారు అని చెప్పేసి ఆయన పంచాయతీరాజ్ ఇంజనీరింగ్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ లో ఉన్నారు, డెప్యుటేషన్ టు అబ్స్ట్రాక్ట్. ఆయన నేను కలిసిపోయి ఒక వ్యాలీ ఫీల్డ్ లో ఒక బ్యూటిఫుల్ గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ లొకేషన్ పాయింట్అవుట్ చేసి డ్రిల్ చేశామండి. డ్రిల్ చేస్తే అది 6 kilometers అవే ఫ్రమ్ వేములవాడ. ఆ వేములవాడ అంటే తెలంగాణలో ఉంది, ప్రస్తుతం కరీంనగర్ జిల్లాలో. 6 kilometers temple authorities laid a pipeline from that bore point to temple వేసుకొని చేస్తే మేము లొకేట్ చేసిన ఒక 1 month లో there are 32 borewells in and around that bore. మేము లొకేట్ చేసిన 1 month లోపల 32 బోర్వెల్స్ చేసేసినారు జనాలు అక్కడ. అప్పుడు అది వాల్టా చట్టం ఇది చెప్పేది 2003. ఆ వాల్టా చట్టం ఉంది, చాలా స్ట్రిక్ట్ గా ఉన్నారు. అంతా ఒక దేవస్థానం కోసము, ఒక టెంపుల్ కోసము అంతగా మేము పోయి చేసి అన్ని ఒక బ్రహ్మాండమైన ఈల్డ్ వచ్చిన బోర్వెల్ లొకేట్ చేస్తే ఒక నెల లోపల చుట్టుపక్కల రైతులు వాళ్ళు వీళ్ళు బ్యూటిఫుల్ వ్యాలీ ఫిల్ అది. దాంట్లో చేస్తే 32 బోర్వెల్స్ జస్ట్ 4 అడుగులు, 5 అడుగులు, 10 అడుగులు, 20 అడుగుల దూరంలోనే 32 బోర్వెల్స్ వేసినారంటే ఒక నెల లోపల అక్కడ డ్రిల్ చేసి పారేసినారు. 500, 600, 700 అడుగులు డ్రిల్ చేశారు. అప్పుడు టెంపుల్ అథారిటీస్ కు రిపోర్ట్ చేసాము. అది పంచాయతీరాజ్ వాళ్లకు, గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ వాళ్ళకంతా మేము అప్పుడు రిపోర్ట్ చేసాము. నౌ దే హావ్ టేకెన్ ఎ వెరీ స్ట్రిక్ట్ యాక్షన్. ఆల్ ద బోర్వెల్స్ ఆర్ సీల్డ్. డమ్మీ చేసి పారేసి ఆ టెంపుల్ కోసం ఏదైతే బోర్వెల్ టెంపుల్ అథారిటీస్ తవ్వినారో అదే బోర్వెల్ ను సక్సెస్ఫుల్ గా రన్ చేసి 6 kilometers వాళ్ళు పైప్ లైన్ వేసుకొని ఇప్పుడు స్టిల్ వేములవాడ గుడికి మేము ఇచ్చిన లొకేషన్ లో నుంచే ఇప్పుడు నీళ్లు వస్తున్నాయండి. మాకు చాలా సంతోషమైంది. ఇట్స్ ఎ వెరీ బిగ్ సక్సెస్ స్టోరీ. అది అట్లా వాల్టా యాక్ట్ ను అంతగా అబ్యూస్ చేస్తారు జనాలు అందరూ అంత స్ట్రిక్ట్ గా గవర్నమెంట్ కూడా అంత పట్టించుకోలేదు అని అనిపిస్తుంది. బట్ ఇప్పుడు సవరించారు. 5 acres ఒక బోర్వెల్ ఉండాలా అని చెప్తున్నారు. బట్ ఇట్స్ ద డెసిషన్ ఆఫ్ ద గవర్నమెంట్. వీ కెనాట్ హెల్ప్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. సుదర్శన్ రాజు గారికి చెప్పండి. మరీ థ్యాంక్స్ నాకు ఈ అవకాశం ఇచ్చిన దానికి. ఉన్నారా సుదర్శన్ రాజు గారు అక్కడ?
ఉన్నాను
సార్. నమస్తే
సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్ ఫర్ యువర్ great lecture on groundwater prospects in and around Kadapa, and also for the land farms, and also for this rainwater structures. For excellent lecture, sir. Thank you, sir. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Right, sir. Bye.
Vote of thanks. Sir,
Sir, 1 minute vote of thanks.
Vote of thanks.
Right, sir.
That will be proposed by my colleague, Dr. Sunita.
Oh, Sunita madam, huh?
Yeah.
Madam, namaste.
Namaste, sir. How are you, sir?
Fine, madam.
Oh, fine, sir. Fine. Thank you for being with us.
Chala
Fine,
kalam
fine.
aindi.
Avun, sir. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion, sir. Professor M. Suryakalavati Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Yogavamana University and Chief Guest of today's function in absentia, and Guest of Honor, Professor D. Vijay Raghav Prasad Garu, Registrar of YVU, President of today's function, Professor G. Sambasiva Reddy Garu, Principal of YVU College, Resource Person, Dr. V. Raghu Garu, Senior Scientist, Andhra Pradesh Space Application Center, APSAC, Vijayawada, Organizing Team, participants of the webinar, Senior Faculty, Students and Research Scholars of YVU, ladies and gentlemen, print and electronic media, a very good morning and good afternoon to you all. I feel honored and privileged to get an opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this webinar. Today we are here for the webinar on To Restore Our Earth, which is the theme for 2021 Earth Day, which is organized by the Department of Geology, Yogavamana University, Kadapa. So I, on behalf of the Department of Geology and on my own behalf, convey my hearty thanks to today's chief guest, Professor M. Suryakalavati Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of YVU, for her benevolent support in permitting us to conduct this webinar. Thank you, madam. We are extremely grateful to our dynamic registrar of YVU, Professor Vijay Raghav Prasad Garu, for his remarks on this occasion and for the financial support of this program. Thank you so much, sir. We are extremely grateful to the president of the program, Professor G. Sambasiva Reddy Garu, Principal YVU College, for presiding the occasion and support and encouragement and everything. Thank you so much, sir. Today we are very inspired to have an eminent speaker like Dr. Raghu sir, who is a dedicated, talented senior scientist from Andhra Pradesh Space Application Center, APSAC Vijayawada. We have really enjoyed a lot And with your inspiring lecture, we are immensely benefited, all the faculty and the students, with your scintillating talk, sir. Your pictorial representation was too good. So in spite of this pandemic schedule, you are being with us for giving a webinar is really, we are very thankful to you, sir, for being with us. And we are grateful to the IT team who is doing technical services to IVU in providing the links and so on. Thank you, Anil, and thank you, Professor Nazir, sir, for his support. I congratulate and thanks the convener of the webinar and head of the Department of the Geology, Dr. G. Sudarshan Raju Garu, and organizing team, Dr. K. Raghubabu Garu, Dr. N. Jayaraju, sir, Dr. S. Srinivasa Gaud, sir, in conducting the relevant webinar in this pandemic in the short period. So thanks to all of them. And I convey thanks to all other invitees, distinguished participants of the program, and others who have actively participated and cooperated for this webinar. I convey thanks to all the faculty, research scholars, students of the teaching and non-teaching staff of the geology and earth sciences for their benevolent support, dedication, teamwork for active participation for this webinar. So not the least, but sincere thanks to the print and electronic media, PRO, Dr. Subbareddy Garu in absentia, and Dr. Suresh and Obilesu for nice coverage. Hoping that we all should take care of our Mother Earth and we restore our Earth. So thank you one and all, and have a great day. Thank you, Raghu sir, especially, so for being with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you, madam.
Be safe.
Keep safe, be safe. Okay. Can we close?
Okay, madam. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.